Sheila, before I begin, hit subscribe and drop a quick thought in the comments. Did you see the Jessica Radcliffe clip? Did you believe it at first? Hold on to that reaction. You'll want it by the time we finish. It's the kind of video that stops you mid-scroll. A massive orca rises in the water. A smiling trainer balanced effortlessly on its nose, waving to a cheering crowd. The music swells. The audience claps and then, without warning, the whale lunges. The trainer, a woman identified as Jessica Radcliffe, is suddenly yanked beneath the surface. The water churns violently. When the whale resurfaces, its mouth is smeared with blood. Screams echo through the stadium. In one corner of the clip, a caption flashes, "Justice for Jessica." It's shocking. It's graphic. It feels horrifyingly real. And it's spreading like wildfire across TikTok, Facebook, and X. Before you grab your pitchfork and demand answers from marine parks, here's the real twist. The video is completely fake. That's right. Jessica Radcliffe never died in an orca attack because Jessica Radcliffe, as far as investigators can tell, doesn't even exist. Multiple major outlets, including International Business Times, Forbes, Hindustan Times, and other fact-checkers have pulled this apart and arrived at the same painful conclusion. No cameras captured this event, no audience was actually there, and the whole thing appears generated by artificial intelligence. That's not a subtle edit. It's fabrication. When you first see footage like this, your brain does what it's wired to do. It responds. You feel fear, empathy, anger. It bypasses the slow, analytical part of your mind and feeds the fast, viral circuits. And that's the tool the hoax uses. It doesn't need to be perfectly real, just real enough to trigger a cascade of emotion and shares. But once you move past the initial shock, the silence around the event becomes deafening. There are no press conferences. No statements from parks. No local news crews. No police reports. Not even the hushed, small-town article you would expect any real tragedy to generate. The silence itself is the first clue. If a trainer died live in a stadium, the entire public information ecosystem would light up. Dawn Brancheau's death in 2010 was front-page news, led to documentaries, hearings, and a fierce global debate. That kind of coverage is the natural reaction to real loss. None of it happened here. So how did this thing get out of a small corner of the internet and into mainstream emotional life? The anatomy of the hoax is a roadmap that's worth studying. At the center is a piece of content, a visually convincing clip that borrows from real footage, stitches in fabricated frames, and is polished with AI-generated audio. The visual texture is familiar enough, killer whales, trainers, water splashing, to feel truthful. Then a name is attached. Names humanize narratives. Jessica Radcliffe as a name sounds personal, plausible. It converts a clip into a story with a victim. Finally, the networked nature of social platforms amplifies it. Emotion drives engagement. Engagement drives visibility. Within hours, the clip circulated widely. Clips captioned "Justice for Jessica" racked up hundreds of thousands of views. Users reposted with dramatic commentary, "Her final smile before horror," and "The whale strikes, no one expected what happened next." Each repost changed the context, added details, and hardened belief. Fact-checkers did what they always do. They followed the trail of evidence. Vocal media, Hindustan Times, International Business Times, Forbes, all of them ran independent searches across public records, employment rosters, OSHA and workplace accident filings, marine park press releases, and local news archives. The result? Nothing. No trainer with that name on any known roster. No reports of a missing person connected to a marine park. No local station doing live crosses to an emergency scene. The absence of corroboration from reputable institutions is not a minor detail. It collapses the premise. If there was no victim, there was no attack. What remained was an image and the emotional infrastructure wrapped around it. Even the footage itself, when analyzed closely, unraveled. Researchers compared markings on the whale, crowd shots, clothing styles, and audio timbre with archived documentary clips and found matches. Some frames were identical or nearly identical to scenes from older, unrelated videos. In other areas, Color grading and compression were used to mask seams. The result is a collage that looks seamless on a phone but shows its stitches under forensic inspection. On top of that, elements of the clip were enhanced or synthesized using AI, generated witness voices, composited faces, synthetic blood speeds and splashes that were artfully timed. The effect is chilling. A piece of video that feels raw and live to a casual viewer but is, in fact, a manufactured moment. Why bother? Motive matters. The incentives of the attention economy explain much of the cruelty behind such a hoax. Viral content, especially outrage and grief, attracts views and ad revenue. A well-timed, emotionally charged clip can be monetized by whoever seeded it, directly or indirectly. There's also the darker motive of sowing chaos or undermining trust in institutions, but typically the simplest explanation, money and attention, is sufficient to explain why someone would fabricate such pain. The content creators who start these fires know that once the embers ignite, others will fan the flames, often without checking for smoke. The social psychology behind the spread is as important as the technical trickery. Humans are wired to respond to vivid, threatening imagery. Stories of harm draw empathetic responses that translate into immediate action, sharing the clip, rallying others, calling for justice. Add to that confirmation bias. If someone already suspects marine parks are dangerous, a video like this confirms what they fear. It's comfortable to accept information that matches your worldview. That cognitive shortcut accelerates the spread because you're not just sharing a clip, you're sharing a moral stance. The algorithm then treats that stance as engagement and rewards it by pushing the content into more feeds. You get millions of sympathetic viewers faster than fact-checkers can assemble proof. Even after investigators publish debunks, the damage is hard to reverse. Corrections reach far fewer people than the original falsehood. Memory plays an ugly trick. We often remember the emotional snapshot more vividly than the later correction. People who saw the clip may later learn it's fake but still carry the visceral image of a trainer pulled under the water, an image that colors opinions long after the facts are corrected. That's the asymmetric harm of misinformation. The lie spreads fast, the truth lumbers behind. There are technical reasons this problem will only get worse. AI tools for video generation, voice synthesis, and face swapping have become more powerful and accessible. 10 years ago, creating believable synthetic video was prohibitively expensive for most people. Today, consumer-level tools can produce jaw-dropping fakes with minimal skill. That democratization of deception means the barrier to producing viral hoaxes is shrinking. The Jessica Radcliffe clip is not the end of the story, it's a clear warning about what's coming. Anyone with motive and a modest budget can produce a convincing simulation of a public event. The policy and social norms that once constrained this sort of deception are being outpaced by rapid technological change. So what can be done? The remedies are both institutional and personal. Institutions, platforms, newsrooms, and governments must invest in rapid verification systems and tools that prioritize provenance and context. Platforms should be quicker to label content that appears to be synthetic and push authoritative debunks into the same feeds that carried the hoax. Newsrooms should make their verification processes more visible. When readers see how thorough the investigation was, that transparency builds trust. Governments, for their part, should consider regulatory guardrails around clearly harmful synthetic media, particularly when it involves fabricated deaths or impersonations. But regulations are slow and blunt. The immediate line of defense is human judgment. Before you click share, ask, who posted this first? Are there reputable outlets reporting it? Do official sources, police, emergency services, the facility itself, corroborate it? If the answer is no, slow down. There's also room for cultural change. We need a societal habit of verify before amplify. That's not just a slogan, it's a practical discipline. Teach people how to do a quick provenance check, reverse image search the key frames, search for corroborating reports with keywords and date filters, look for metadata if available, and check reliable fact-checkers. If everyone made a small effort, the cost of sharing misinformation would increase and the incentive structure that rewards emotional virality would shift. Consider too the human victims of hoaxes. Even when a video is fake, the people whose identities are used, or whose jobs are implicated, can suffer. Trainers, the facilities they work for, and actual families connected to marine parks may find themselves attacked online or inundated with harassment based on a fiction. In a perverse twist, a hoax that aims to shame an industry can unfairly hurt the people who work inside it. Think about the trainer who spends decades building trust with animals and is suddenly accused or blamed in comment threads for an event that never occurred. The emotional collateral damage of misinformation is often invisible and unquantified, but it matters. The media response to the Jessica Radcliffe clip offers a template for how to push back. Credible outlets did not merely state that the video seemed fake, they documented the steps they took to determine that conclusion. They searched public records. They compared footage against archives. They interviewed experts in marine animal behavior and digital forensics. They reached out to facilities for comment. This methodical approach is boring, which is precisely why it's effective. The noise is emotional and loud. The verification work is slow and quiet, but it builds a durable record. When credible journalists publish these records, it should be weighted more heavily in public discourse than the initial viral clip. Practically, that requires viewers to shift their attention from instantaneous emotion to patient evaluation. Let's be clear, skepticism is not cynicism. Asking for proof before sharing does not mean you don't care. In fact, verifying demonstrates respect for the truth and for the feelings of others. If you share a fake tragedy in good faith, you might cause real pain and waste collective energy chasing a non-event. If you pause, check, and then share responsibly, you contribute to a healthier public square. There are also technological approaches that can help. Watermarking authentic footage, digital provenance metadata, and tools that flag manipulated content are being developed. Some creators have started stamping verified content with cryptographic signatures or metadata that prove authenticity. Platforms could require or incentivize provenance tokens for videos claimed as newsworthy. These solutions are imperfect, and they raise their own privacy and implementation challenges, but they represent a path forward in reducing the ease with which fabricated clips can masquerade as reality. We must also ask tougher questions about the ethics of synthetic media in public discourse. Is it ever permissible to create a fabricated tragedy to prove a point or to illustrate a danger? Most ethicists would answer no when it involves impersonating victims or provoking grief. Synthetic storytelling has artistic and educational uses, but clarity and consent are crucial. When someone creates a fake death and packages it as a real event without disclosure, that's exploitation of empathy for agenda or profit. Society should treat that kind of deception as morally suspect at the very least, and potentially criminal if it causes demonstrable harm. What happened to the accounts that seeded the Jessica Radcliffe clip? Some were deleted, some rebranded, and some simply faded into the background noise. But the traces remained: reposts, screenshots, and the memory lodged in feeds. A takedown here, a correction there. These are necessary but insufficient responses. The architecture of virality is robust. It reroutes around individual interventions. To truly change the dynamics, we need systems that make provenance discoverable and social norms that favor verification. This crisis also offers a teaching moment about media literacy. Schools, families, and community groups should be talking about how to evaluate online claims. Practice exercises in quick verification can be surprisingly effective. Take a viral clip, run a reverse image search, check timestamps, find the earliest post, and compare with reputable outlets. Build that habit into daily life. Digital hygiene matters as much as physical hygiene did in a pandemic. The difference is that digital hygiene protects public truth rather than personal health. Finally, reflect on the shape of empathy in the age of synthetic media. Empathy is powerful. It's how communities respond to suffering. But empathy divorced from verification can be weaponized. When compassion is monetized, people who wish to profit from outrage will manufacture reasons for us to feel. The ethical guardrail is simple: feel but verify. Let empathy guide your actions, not your assumptions. Jessica Radcliffe, as a name and a fake tragedy, will not be the last fabricated story to cloud our feeds. The tools that produced her likeness are growing more accessible every day. Our only realistic defense is to sharpen our collective habits. Slow down, check, demand corroboration, and reward platforms and publishers who place truth above immediacy. That's how we reclaim the power of shared attention for something worth having. If you saw the clip, tell us in the comments. Where did you first see it, and how did you feel when you learned it was fabricated? Sharing your experience helps others learn how to spot similar traps. And if you care about protecting truth in an age of synthetic reality, hit subscribe, because these conversations are only going to become more important. The internet gave us the orphan image of Jessica Radcliffe. A face, a name, a moment of manufactured grief. It also gave us the tools to unmake that fiction if we choose to use them. Choose to verify. Choose to teach others how to verify. And maybe, the next time a shock clip scrolls past your thumb, you'll be the person who stops the spread, not the person who unknowingly fuels it.